Cool. Hey, everybody. I'm Jamie. Hello to people on YouTube as well. I organise GlasgowJS, EdinburghJS, and Scottish Technology Club. Thank you for coming along this evening. Appreciate you being here. Just a couple of words about Scottish Technology Club. So that brings together this meetup, GlasgowJS, EdinburghJS, and a few other meetups like the Rust meetup, Python meetups in there, MLOps meetup. We've got a shared Discord server that you might be interested in, so people chat there, promote their meetups, and quite kind of interesting articles. And every Monday I publish a bulletin. In that bulletin is every event I can find relating to technology in Scotland. And I also, if people write blogs or do vlogs on technology subjects, kind of gather all the links and put them together. Very occasionally, people send me jobs, and I also put them in the bulletin too. So if you're interested, there's a QR code at the front, or go to scottishtechnology.club to sign up for that. It's all free. It's just something that I run. So yeah, tonight we're going to be hearing from Yev, who has been through our Speaker Launchpad program, and I will say more about that afterwards. But yeah, he's going to be talking about service workers. So over to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Cheers.
Right before we start, there's the QR code which you can scan, and it will open you the presentation which I'm about to show. It will also be present at the end of the presentation, so no rush to scan it, but just so you know. Cool. So let's go ahead. So my name is Yev, and I'm working as a senior software engineer, currently working at Faceit. Faceit is a competitive gaming platform, and I've been in the industry for a little bit more than 10 years, and I was doing a bit here and there of different things, and today I want to show you about one case which got me caught completely off guard. And the way how this talk is structured is that I'll try to walk through it, the way how I lived through it, and let's see how it takes us. So it all started with the launch, and it was the rebranding launch day. So we were releasing the new version of the website, basically better viewing, a few more features, and it was behind the feature flag only for one subset of users in one region. We did expect that the things will go not so smooth, right? So about a few hours in, we got a few reports from the users which saying that they can't see the new navigation and they can't access few features, which kind of leads us to think that, okay, maybe that's the feature flag issue, right? And they also told us that in incognito, everything works correctly. Cool. So the suspects, right? So like I said, the feature flags API, maybe the CDN, and the browser cache. Obviously, the API is the first, and we tried checking that. So we saw that there are high numbers of 500s to that service. And while the backend team was checking what is it caused by, on the front end, we decided that we can kind of trick it, because we also have the location value from the headers. So we can check the headers, not the feature flags API, and this way kind of just omit through it. So we pushed the fix. We were waiting for users to verify it. Meanwhile, backend confirmed that it was only coming from the auto environments, which means that the API is working all right on production. And we also have a user which confirmed us that he has the proper feature flag while still seeing the old navigation, which unfortunately makes the API issue ruled out. So the next one is CDN. It is more like as a due diligence at that point of time, because it's like 1 or 2 days gone, and if there were a lot of users receiving the wrong stuff from the CDN, most likely we have much more reports. But I still checked that. It was looking all right. The normal assets are served, all cool. Headers. So that's a bit more tricky, because the browser behaves how the browser, right? So I decided, OK, that's a good idea to check whether something was changed in the last few days, maybe a week or so, regarding the cache strategies, maybe request duplication, or someone added some cache headers behavior, right? So I was looking through the code, through some like MRs, and nothing came to my mind. At one point, I was actually starting to think that I'm very bad in engineering because I'm running out of the ideas what can happen. But then I thought, OK, user says that incognito is working, right? So it means that something is persisting in their local browsers while it is not persisting in the incognito. So I thought, OK, what if it is caused by something that may have been there before, but it is not anymore in our code base? So I thought about it and think that may be a good idea, right? So let's try to prove it. And how do I do it? Obviously, looping through all the requests and stuff, it's just too much. So I thought, fine, I may try look into the previous incidents which we have and try to find something which has some cache problems. And lucky for me, there was one. And that incident was about the service worker, which was causing the cache problems for the user. Great. At that point of time, I didn't know much about the service worker. Like pretty much all I know is that the service worker is just like a script which works on a separate thread. It sits between the page and the network. It can intercept requests. It has its own cache, so it can serve stuff from the cache. It can go to the network. Like it can change things basically as a backend, but locally in the browser, right? So where do I start? The incident mentioned that there was a service worker. So the first thing I did, I went to the Cloudflare and checked, do I have any requests to this service? And yeah, I was surprised quite badly because it was 11 million requests in one single day to that service worker, which is like too much. At least it was all 404, which means that it is actually not present in our service, which as how it should be, right? But it also, at the same time, I tried to realize what is the impact, what is the scale, because only like, let's say, 20 or like 25 reports we got from the users, so that's just like very small number, and it does not compare to this like big number, right? So I went to check to the docs to understand what can fetch this, and basically the service worker, most of the work is done by the browser, so the browser making hard work to check whether the service worker is updated or not. So basically, it will periodically call the service worker when user navigates your website. It will make sure it will call the service worker once in 24 hours. And you can also do it manually, but that's not the case for us. So basically, it checks it, it compares byte by byte with his cache version, and if it's different, the new service worker will get installed. If it's not, then if there is a service worker, it will just work. So basically, in our case, because it can't compare with anything, right? So if user have the service worker, it will just be there. But still, 11 million is too much, right? So what to do? Let's try to fix it, right? So we already had a function, which is unregistered service worker, which also was used at that incident. As we had an incident, I still checked the function signature. All looks all right. It does what it should do. So I'll deploy it with our service worker, and there was nothing like changing in the amount of requests, but there was one thing, which is on the graph below, which is the requests with the status 304. So 304 is content non-modified, which is very common with the service worker, because if it checks your service worker and it's the same, it will just give you 304. So when I deployed the fix, there was a huge drop, and it was a bit of mysterious for me because it kind of like doesn't add up. And then I knew. So we got another incident from another team, and I, by mistake, killed another service worker, which we actually had running and which was doing the proper job. As you can see, that huge spike to the bottom. Fine, lesson learned. Let's go back to the documentation. And there was one important stuff I missed, which is the scope. So basically, that function, which gets the service worker registration, it is based by scope and not by the URL of the service worker. So basically, /service worker JS its scope is just /, which means the root scope. And basically what that function did, it just unregisters anything which is on that scope. So that's why it was killed. So as you can see on the screen, the scope, it determines which URL service worker can intercept. It defaults to the directory, but also can be set during the call. The application itself can have multiple service workers, and only one can control it at the one time, and it is determined by more detailed scope. But let's get back to the fix, right? Because that was the wrong scope. We fixed it again, and I pushed the fix. Meanwhile, I was still very concerned about the amount of the requests, which is 11 million, and one of my colleagues managed to find it in the network tab on production. So great success. We start looking into it, and we found there is an initiator tab, if you know, in the DevTools, which tells you from where call is happening. And basically, if the browser itself checks the service worker, it won't have any information about it, but that particular one has a JS file bundled to it, and it was just a source code of one of our analytics tools. So we just cut it, and we decreased it to 60K, which is much less, but still a lot. And again, we still don't know the scale, which is very bad. So I was trying to find the scale by different means. I forgot to say during that feature flag incident, our error budget was burned. So that means no login on the front end could help me anymore. So we were like kind of flying blind. And I was trying to find the spot from the metrics, because as you see, most of those graphs, they don't give me like an amount of users. They just give me the picture, but not the amount. And finally, in one of the analytics, I found that it has an additional small field, which is the front-end version. And that was a big surprise, because apparently we had 15K users served with the version from 4 months old. From 4 months old, and we don't even know about it, which is a big, big surprise, right? So let's get back to the fix, because now we know the scale and we really need to fix it. So we went to production, we check, and nothing happened. So I fixed the scope, but still nothing's working. So I go back again to the docs, and I just literally was trying to just kill this service worker, how to do it. So there is a way, we just called the self-destroying service worker. So basically, you use this script, which basically overtakes the service worker existing and unregisters itself and reloads the page. It works because you basically put it under your service worker URL, and then the browser does this work, as we know already. So the browser will check it, he'll see that the content is different, it will install this new service worker, and this one will just basically dump itself. Cool. So while this stuff is deploying, I'm very concerned why the page fix is not done. And then I checked a bit of code and realized that that service worker, which was deployed before, it's a classic cache-first service worker, which means that it intercepts the request, it sees the cache entry of the page, and it just serves it. So there was like a very common scenario that in single-page applications, which basically JS file controls all the routes, right? So regardless of which route you come, it still serves the same JS file. So basically, that service worker has it cached, and it always goes through that cycle and never goes to network where the fix is. Fine. So that's, we know, which is like good news. Let's see whether our fix actually does anything. And not again. And which is now concerning, because we obviously checked the stage, we checked the preview, and in production, it is still given 404. And what can be it? So I went again to the Cloudflare, check assets, all fine. The service worker is there, the self-destroying one, which should be served. And you go to the URL, and it gives you 404. And what's else staying between the browser and your server? The infrastructure. So we need to go to the infrastructure and try to understand. And we did find the culprit. It was actually a symptom which was fixed a few months ago, because there were like all of those requests to the service worker, which was basically said that, OK, if you just fetch it, return 404, done. So we removed this rule, and now we really hope that the things would work. And they does work. So as soon as the rule is removed, there is a huge drop in the request to the service worker, a huge drop to the sessions. So the zombie is finally dying, and we obviously leave that service worker file intact for a long time, just because if users come in again, so they can always be served that service worker in case they still have it dead. That's how it was. So the retrospective. So how actually that happened and why we didn't notice for so much time. I put this small timeline, and I will focus on two parts here, which is the incomplete fix and the months of silence. So the incomplete fix was actually, like, let's say, it's basically you had two applications at the same time, legacy and beta, and the fix was only living in the legacy, and it was also only working if you hard refresh. And you know, users don't tend to hard refresh usually, so they just refresh. And the months of silence, we can explain it only because the application itself is working. The core proposition is working, so the users still have the website, which is working, and it's working fine, and they may not even know that we have like new features, new stuff, because they just go to the website and it works. The second one is we didn't have any version monitoring. Of course, after this incident, we will have. And the third is that with the rebranding, we had some hype, some marketing release, so we thought that a lot of users can be returning and coming back, and they may be stuck on that version at that point of time. But now, yes. Cool. So basically, the main lesson is that if you know how the service worker works, it's just really easy to fix, and the thing would be done like in 30 minutes. But we spent like a good several days to fix it, or the issue may not happen, but yeah. So the core takeaways also is that it's better to ship a kill switch before you ship a service worker. So the kill switch is anything which service worker can understand from within itself that it needs to shut down itself. Pretty much because it intercepts the calls, you can just add some flag to the API or like anything, so he can check it all the time and kill himself when he needs. Then to monitor the version of the users, which is very core and I think most applications should do, but yeah. Also, the incidents needs to be documented properly and to document layers between the application. I mean, documentation getting old really quick, but it still always helps. Those are just few resources which helped me while I was debugging this issue, and if you would at any point of time want to work with the service worker, you can come back to here. And basically, that's it. So again, the QR code over here is the presentation. The QR code over there is if you want to connect in LinkedIn. And also, in the presentation on the web, there is appendix, which has some more useful information which I couldn't fit inside this presentation. But otherwise, that's me, and thank you to have me.
Cool. Thanks. I think one of the things as web developers is we always assume that users kind of have the latest version of our app. And I've been in this situation as well when deploying stuff. I think you may be much more used to it in mobile apps where you're like, we don't know what users might end up with. But yeah, service workers can cause real problems sometimes. Does anybody have any questions about service workers in general? Does anybody ever use service workers in their application?
I think you might use a lot, but it's just shipped by the third party. I don't even know about it.
So what is Yeah, so for those of us who aren't familiar, what is a service worker?
Yeah, so the service worker is basically like a script, another JavaScript file, which runs on the separate thread from your application, and it controls your page in a way. So the most powerful feature of it is that it intercepts the network calls. So it can do all the other job, like offloading some heavy tasks from the main thread and stuff, but its main thing, it intercepts the call, so that's why it is used for caching, for instance loading, for like modifying the request on the fly, and that's like the main usages. So it's like a separate entity, and it is like a mini server within the browser, because usually as a front-end engineer, every client is separate, so that's why you don't have most of the problems backend engineer have, because backend serves thousands of users while frontend has one instance, right? But this service worker, it just blurs this line a bit because it behaves like a small service for multiple clients, like for your multiple tabs for one client, pretty much.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
Hello. Okay, so this was Trilling. Wanted to understand, so this happened in production. Wanted to understand if you had any lower environment like commonly called staging integration, and if you do, why this wasn't catched, and if you don't, if you think this would help, like noticing this earlier.
Yeah. So obviously, because as you can understand, the service worker was deployed several months before, and when you try staging local and stuff, you don't have it. So basically, whatever code you push, you won't see it because you don't have that service worker, right? So you need to have that old version running first, so the service worker is installed in your browser, and then you can reproduce it. And during the investigation, we did that, so I just, for the time sake, I didn't include it, but how we also confirmed it, that I went back to that commit, I just pushed it, and it was doing that. So it was caching my application, it was showing the old version regardless of what I have. So I could confirm that, but that's like a retrospective why I could confirm it, right? So I knew it after we fixed it and not beforehand. So beforehand, it was like kind of a mystery because no one of our applications have that service worker deployed, right? So because we use the application all the time, right? So like we always update it, we always like clear the cache, we always we developers, and most of our users are doing the same, right? So they don't know that they need to go to the application and say, oh, there is some weird service working, right? Maybe that's the problem.
Thanks. Cool. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
So just a few programming notes. Next month, I'm on holiday. So if you want to have a meetup, you can organize it. And if you want to organize it, you can come and talk to me about doing that, and I will help you. But I will not physically be here. So I think the easiest thing for next month might be if some people can commit to going to the pub and say, I will definitely be there. We maybe need 4 people to say they will definitely be there, just because 2 might drop out. And then I can advertise that and we can have another GlasgowJS. Aside from that, if you want to speak at future GlasgowJS, you can do what Yev did, which is get in touch with me. We can provide feedback on your presentation. We can help you come up with ideas. I can also help you do like an online video. Alan live streams, we get like a kind of capture of that. But I can basically help you with anything to get involved in the community and kind of get your voice out there, which should be good. So now we're going to pack up, and usually people go for drinks at the Counting House, just at the edge of George Square. So if anybody's up for that, please kind of lead a group of people. I will probably go down for a pint before heading back to Edinburgh. Thank you for coming tonight. If there's any drinks or anything left, please take them away with you, even half a bottle or whatever, because we need to tidy up this whole room. Yeah, thanks for coming, guys. See you soon. Cheers.